Grand opening, grand closing. Welcome, my friends, my family, my fellow gamers. Your only friend is YouTube Streets, Puerto77, back with another video. Now, this video specifically is gonna cover down on the PlayStation 5 Pro, what we know so far, and hopefully it can help you at least just gain a little bit more information, insight to what's going on. If you tried, and if you recently been trying to go on the internet, Twitter, or any social media, you see a lot of vitriol, a lot of anger, a lot of misinformation. Is just a complete mess. Now, normally, I will make a video making fun of the people misinformation and all that stuff, but I think it's time that, hey, let me just slow it down. Let's just get some realistic perspective on this so you could be better informed, right? Now, keep in mind, a lot more information is going to be coming out over the next couple of weeks. There's a lot of tech experts that have their hands on the PlayStation 5 Pro, the ones that Sony gave them out to, and they're getting deep hands-on and all that stuff. So I would imagine over the next couple of weeks, before launch, we're going to see more games, more performance, just more stuff on what the PlayStation 5 Pro can do. But for now, if you're wondering what's going on, or if you're new to all of this, right? Or maybe you're familiar, but you're kind of confused and thinking, what is going on? Why is this all this nonsense? This video hopefully will clear things up, right? So if you haven't known already, right, the PlayStation 5 Pro got announced this past week with Mark Cerny, who's the designer of the PlayStation 5 and the 4 since last gen, right? The PlayStation 5 Pro was revealed. But before we cover that, let's go back a little bit right now, just so that way we're on the same page, because this is not the first time this thing was done. This all began with this one. This is known as the PlayStation 4 Pro. Now, the concept of Pro is pretty much what is called a mid-gen refresh. That's pretty much meaning a halfway point into the generation of console gaming. A company, the company who makes the platform, releases a upgraded version of the console they launched. So in this case, this was the upgraded version of the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 originally launched in 2013. And then in 2013, and then in 2016, this console launched, right? And what this does is it introduced the PlayStation gamers into the world of 4K, or at least, 4K with upscaling and all these other different technologies. This console launched at $400. And what it pretty much did was the PlayStation 4, the base one, or the Slim, was pretty much a 1080p machine at 30 frames per second. The PlayStation 4 Pro was a 4K machine, and what I mean by 4K is all the trickeries and all this other stuff to get that 4K clarity, but still at 30 frames per second. That was what the mid-gen refresh at the time was for. It also added HDR for the first time in many games and stuff. So that was Sony's first stab at it. Now with this gen, this is their new stab at it, right? And this is the PlayStation 5 Pro. This is the upgraded version of the PlayStation 5, right? Now, to get some detail in the points, right? Because so many people are asking, then what is the point? What is this going to do for me? I will present you a snippet of the presentation Mark Cerny had. And I think this part is the most important part, right? Now, to preface this, it's all about what we have been doing with the PlayStation 5 Pro. If you're a current PlayStation 5 owner, or you plan to get a PlayStation 5, great machine, right? Great machine, has done a phenomenal job, okay? However, it's split into two ways, right? The first way is it provides a fidelity mode where you can play the game at all its bells and whistles, at the highest fidelity of graphics, 4K with its little trickery and temporal injections and all that science fiction talk, but you get the beautiful image, beautiful clarity. Some games provide ray tracing, so you get a gorgeous looking game, but it's running at 30 frames per second. Now, for the first time this gen, right, on the PlayStation platform, you now have the options of performance mode. Majority of the games are providing performance mode. And what does that mean? You get to play the game at buttery smooth 60 frames per second. Now, if you haven't already, there is a marginal difference between 30 frames and 60 frames. You won't know it until you do it. But once you do it, you will clearly see the smoothness and the response. And it even makes the game kind of look better because it's just how smooth it is. It doesn't look jittery or choppy at 60 frames per second. Once you have that 60 frame percent smooth, you can actually notice it. The problem is it's going to come with concessions. You will not be able to get the full fidelity of the game. It pretty much toning down the settings. You're toning down the graphical settings, lower resolution, lower shadows, lower textures. Everything's just going to lower. And many games, they just completely eliminate ray tracing. So you don't even get the illuminations and all that stuff, the surface and the beautiful just scenery of that. But you do get the 60 frames per second. Now, let's see Mark Cerny talk about it a bit more in detail.
It's wonderful to see such variety and richness of game experiences. Creators have made amazing use of the hardware capabilities, but when I talk to them, I do hear about their desire for more graphics performance. The dreams of the developers are bigger than can be supported at 60 frames per second, and that leads to an aspect of modern gaming that we're all familiar with: graphics modes. It can be a difficult choice for players. Fidelity modes emphasize the visuals, typically through higher resolution rendering. These modes might also have enhanced detail or use more ray tracing. But the games only run at 30 frames per second. The visuals can be choppier and the controls less responsive. Performance modes emphasize frame rate and interactivity, typically choosing to run 60 frames per second, mainly by reducing the graphical detail until those frame rates can be achieved. When asked to decide on a mode, players are choosing performance about 3/4 of the time. Removing that decision, or at least narrowing that divide, is one of the key targets for PlayStation 5 Pro.
So that right there, as you can see, is pretty much the whole crux. This was a 9-minute demonstration, and after a while, some people lose the plot on what's being said. I just want to show that part because that's literally the so what of the conversation. It is literally that. It is trying to improve the PlayStation 5 enjoyment, where you no longer have to choose between graphics mode and performance mode. With the PlayStation 5 Pro, you're going to get both. You're going to get the beautiful fidelity and graphics and ray tracing of the PlayStation 5, but now at 60 frames. And with many of the stuff that's added to it, has new technologies, has its own AI upscaling known as PSSR, which is supposed to provide performance. It also has the new RDNA 4 ray tracing. So now you're going to get even better ray tracing. So these are the things that are the pros going to bring to the table when compared to the PlayStation 5. The problem is now is, and you probably noticed on the internet, everybody is for whatever reason throwing PC onto the table. The funny thing is, PC has always generally, in terms of performance and technology, been the better machine. You can always upgrade it. You can always have parts. You can upgrade the CPU. It's a build. It's a piece part build system and stuff. But once again, they're trying to use this to downplay the PlayStation 5. Now, why? It's because of this. The announcement that it is $700. Now, if you watched my channel for a while, I've said from the beginning, from the rumor of the PS5, that if the PlayStation 5 Pro is supposed to be worth its weight in salt, it has to be more than $500, right? The current PlayStation 5 Slim is $450. This PS5 Pro, and the reason why I use the Slim is because the $450 one is the all digital one, right? Because this right here is all digital. In order to make it with the disc, you have to buy the disc separately. So I'm comparing this to the discless version of the PS5. So the PS5 all digital is $450. This is $700. So you're talking about a $250 difference in performance and whatever. That is what it's going to take to have that noticeable difference, to take what the PS5 can do and then now run the game at 60 frames, improve ray tracing, and potentially improve better settings and better clarity. That's the main concept about this, right? It's not about trying to outperform a PC. It's about outperforming a PlayStation 5. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. We'll use Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? So in quality mode, it's a dynamic 2160p, which is 4K at 30 frames per second. The common 2160p with temporal reconstruction. So in order to get it to 4K, they use temporal reconstruction. That's all the trickery to get that clarity look, right? So the textures, the scene, and everything is at 30 frames. If you look at the right, dynamic, it goes down to 1440p, but it's at 60 FPS because that is the priority. The priority is the frames, right? But as you can see, it is a lot blurrier than the left. So with the PS5, these are your two options that you have. This is what you have to deal with. You get the nice clarity and quality image, but at 30 frames, or you can play the buttery smooth 60 frames, but you're going to have to make a lot of concessions. Now, we have already testament here on from John Lenneman oh my god, Digital Foundry. He already has, and Digital Foundry already has a PlayStation 5 Pro, and they're already testing it. And from his comment, this is what he says. Wow, yeah, FFS7R looks a lot better on the PS5 Pro. Night and day difference. I actually put off playing it due to other things happening at the time of release, but the Pro will finally push me to enjoy it. Image quality was just too awful on the normal PS5. And what he was probably talking about is the 60 frame mode. Tom Warren says, this is what I want to see more of. A lot of people have dismissed the PS5 Pro because of the price tag and Sony's weird presentation. But the PSSR could be a big deal for consoles like DLSS was on PC. Sony has beaten Microsoft, a company focused on AI, to bring this tech to console. And that's the so what behind this, right? Yes, it's a little bit more expensive. It is expensive, $700, but it is a choice. Do you want technology? Are you enjoying the PlayStation 5? And do you want to still go through this scenario? Is this something, right? Now, if you're perfectly fine, you say, you know what, I don't mind the 1440p, 60 frames, a little bit of blurriness, still a great experience. You know what? There is nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. If you are happy with what the PlayStation 5 provides, and I don't see why you wouldn't be, that's it. You don't have to get involved in this. You don't have to worry about the PlayStation 5 Pro. It's not like the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to do something weird like get exclusives that you can't play on the PlayStation 5. That's not a thing. All this is a mid-gen refresh, right? Now, I would like to also, since people are throwing in PC into the hat, right? Let's check out this right here.
Maybe I should just go to PC at this point because this is quite expensive.
Yeah.
What do you imagine that would cost?
Probably a fair bit more. I mean, you need to have the GPU that you're going to need. I mean, if you consider a holistic view of all of the different components, the enhanced ray tracing, no AMD GPU has that at the moment. The machine learning block, no AMD GPU has that. It's almost like essentially an NVIDIA style feature set, but made by AMD. And the closest equivalent GPU you'll be looking at would be the RTX 4070. The 4060 is quite close to base PlayStation 5, factoring out machine learning and ray tracing. So you're looking at a 4070. I looked on, I think it was Amazon yesterday, Amazon.com, and the cheapest one of those is $540. So beyond that, you've got to get a CPU, a motherboard, memory, power supply, case, 2 terabyte SSD. So it is going to the costs are going to ramp up, right?
Maybe I should.
So what's going on is there's this sudden movement that everybody's trying to build a PC good enough to argue against the PlayStation 5 Pro. And the reality is that's not, if you're doing that, is you're one of two people. You're really only one type of person, and you just have this issue with PlayStation. Because if you really cared about PC and you cared about people playing on PC, why would you want people to just have the bare of the line PC, right? You just want someone, oh yeah, don't worry, don't get a PlayStation 5 Pro, just pay $900, you get this PC so much better. And then when the person gets it and it doesn't really have the bells and whistles of the PC, and when I'm talking about $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 PC, right? Generally, most PC gamers that got a PC, they generally spent at least $1,500 to $1,800. That's where the window is at. That's where the sweet spot of the window's at. All these sub $1,000 PCs that are being recommended by people that don't actually have it. They don't actually have a $900 PC. They don't have a $1,000 PC. They actually have a 15, 16. I did a tweet, on Twitter, X, whatever, asking people, don't recommend a $900 build. Tell me what's your build. And the majority of the people that had builds were in the $2,000. Most of them were $1,800 to $2,000. Very few, I think maybe I seen one or two tweets where somebody actually have a $1,000 build and stuff, but they didn't really care about graphics performance, and they didn't really bash the PlayStation 5 Pro to begin with. They really didn't care. They just said, yeah, I got a $1,000 build and stuff, right? So really, the Let me post something else. This is another good reference. This is Daniel Owens. He also, does a good discussion on the PlayStation 5 Pro's GPU.
So what do we know about the PS5 Pro? They've said they've upgraded the GPU. They're upgrading it to a GPU that has 67% more compute units than the current PS5 console and 28% faster memory, and overall this enables up to 45% faster rendering for gameplay, making the experience much smoother. So the 45% faster rendering for gameplay is the really important number here. To match the PS5 GPU, Pro GPU's gaming performance, we need a graphics card that is about 45% more powerful than the graphics card inside the PlayStation 5. Now, it's been well established that the closest available desktop graphics card to a PlayStation 5 non-Pro is the RX 6700. Again, people like Digital Foundry have done videos analyzing the performance of the RX 6700 versus a PlayStation 5. They often are fairly similar in performance, other than some games that probably have some optimization issues on one platform or the other. So if I use Tech PowerUp's relative performance chart to then look for GPU, to set this as a 100% baseline, we can now look at GPUs that are in the ballpark of 45% or so faster than the GPU inside the PS5. Now there's some other nuance we're going to need to discuss, but that basically puts us into GPUs like the 3070 Ti, the 7700 XT, the RX 6800, and the RTX 4070, with the 4070 definitely being more powerful than the GPU in the PS5 Pro, if we're looking at the performance scaling. Now, there's some other things we need to consider. For example, the PlayStation 5 Pro also has AI-driven upscaling. Unlike AMD graphics cards in the PC space currently. On the PC, you're going to be using FSR2, which is similar to what, or 3, but the upscaling component of that is still not an AI-driven upscaler. So the point is, you'd basically be doing what the original PlayStation could do for upscaling if you buy a current AMD graphics card on PC. Whereas NVIDIA graphics cards offer DLSS upscaling, which is an AI-driven upscaler. And at this point in time, we don't have the means to do a great image quality comparison between PSSR, FSR, and DLSS. So, but given that this is a big selling point for this console, my assumption would be that unless PlayStation has really screwed up badly, this will be a better upscaler than FSR, because otherwise there's no point in having this at all. The original PlayStation 5 could already do FSR. So whether it's as good as DLSS, I don't know. Maybe it's better than DLSS. We haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's not as good. But that's gonna, like I said, make this make this choice more complicated, because if I go with a obvious choice like an RX 6800, I think that when we're not factoring in the upscaling technology, you're basically spot on the performance when it comes to that 45% performance uplift. So this would be absolutely spot on. It's also great value, but you're going to lose out on that upscaling, and that I think is significant and worth thinking about. If I went with something like the 3070 Ti, we're in a similar performance ballpark overall, maybe slightly slower, and we get the AI upscaling. But the 3070 Ti only has 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and a PlayStation has 16 gigabytes of unified memory, and usually at least 12 gigabytes of that is available to use as VRAM, which means that the PlayStation 5 Pro can probably use texture settings and run at like 4K resolutions with settings turned up higher than what the VRAM capacity can handle on a 3070 Ti. So that means that the 3070 Ti also has its own, caveat compared to going with with it instead of, the RX 6800 had its own caveat. The 7700 XT is also hanging out here in the same kind of performance class, but again, like the RX 6800, doesn't have an AI upscaler. which means that another option would be going with the RTX 4070. That'll have 12 gigabytes of VRAM, which is similar to the amount of of the PlayStation's unified memory that can generally get dedicated to VRAM, and it has the AI upscaler. It's also more powerful than a 45% uplift. Also, I should mention that the PS5 Pro is also calling out advanced ray tracing. So it's saying that the ray tracing could be at times double the performance and at times triple the performance of the original PS5 console, which is a lot more than our 45% uplift and even more than our compute unit uplift, implying that its ray tracing performance is probably more upgraded than just using a newer generation like the 7700 XT from AMD. Because they've probably backported RDNA 4 ray tracing components into the PlayStation 5 Pro GPU. So that basically means there is no exact match, as far as I can tell, for the PS5 Pro GPU. I could tell you that an RTX 4070 probably has better ray tracing, at least as good AI upscaling, and more performance. So if we want to just beat a PS5 Pro, I think the 4070 will do it. If we want to match the non-ray tracing and non-upscaling performance, I think the RX 6800 does it. So here's what I'm going to do.
So if we listen to him, I think the best bet is, at this point in time, until more information comes out, and we need more details, until these tech guys get their hands on it, you can at least say the PlayStation 5 Pro in terms of GPU performance is somewhere in the middle of the 6800 and the 4070, only because there's trade-offs and stuff like that. The 4070 overall, what it seems to right now, beats the PlayStation 5 GPU based on the information that it has now, because it has all the check boxes, the AI upscaling, the ray tracing, all that stuff, while everything below it, and the VRAM, while the 6800 and the 7700 doesn't have the AI upscaling, and the 3070 Ti doesn't have enough VRAM, right? So overall, you're starting to see that this PlayStation 5 Pro is competing with very good cards on the PC market, right? But what does all this mean? What is the ultimate so what behind this? The ultimate so what is this. The main point of the PlayStation 5 Pro is, do you want a better PlayStation 5 experience? Yes or no? If the answer is no, because you're good with the PlayStation 5, it is a quality console, it has done a phenomenal job, and you are more than happy with it, then don't worry about it. The Pro is not for you. You're good. You're happy with your options of choosing quality mode or performance mode, or if it's a PlayStation first party, you have those advanced options with your HDMI 2.1 with VRR and high frame rate modes. If you're happy with all of that and everything the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 5 Slim is providing you, that's it. You're good. Okay. Now, if you're one of the few that says, I love my PlayStation 5, I'm enjoying it, but man, if I have the ability to play these games at full quality mode and still be able to keep 60 frames, no more choices between quality or performance mode, and you really want that, right? And you're really interested in looking at these advanced ray tracing technology and the AI upscaling that now is being introduced in consoles for the first time, this might be the console for you, right? Now, if you already own the PlayStation 5 console, right, depending where you're at in the world, but here in the US, GameStop is giving gamers up to $410 for trading towards the PlayStation 5 Pro. If you're able to get $410 towards your PlayStation 5 Pro, that means your PlayStation 5 Pro is only $290. $290 to upgrade and replace the console you've been enjoying over the last couple of years, right? So if you bought your console at launch like I had this console day one when it launched in November 2020. This console is about to be 4 years old, and I'm about to swap it out for a brand new console that is much more powerful, gives me the options that I want now to enjoy quality mode at 60 frames per second, gets me to experience the PSSR technology, this AI technology that's improved clarity and image quality, along with advanced ray tracing. And all I got to do is cough up, is trade in the console that I've been using for 4 years already, and just trade it in and just drop another $290. I'm all about it. This is all me. This is finally the very thing that I wanted, right? When this whole rumor started about, PS5 Pro, I said that if it costs $500, then I won't be interested, because there's no way you can actually put some meaningful technology into the console, yet it's only $50 more than the base version. No, you have to put in some oomph, right? Now, a lot of people are set over this oomph. I will say the one main thing, and I will clear this up right now. The biggest concern already is if the Pro costs $700, how much is the PlayStation 6 going to cost when it's more powerful than the Pro? Here's the thing that people just don't understand. The PlayStation 5 Pro is a mid-gen refresh. That means day one, it will be sold for profit. Sony is not going to take a loss on this console. It doesn't need to, right? They're not going to halfway into the generation of gaming start taking losses selling consoles, right? This console is not meant to grow the marketplace significantly. That is the job of the PlayStation 5 Slim, and it will still be available out in the market for purchase. In fact, majority of the gamers who will buy a PlayStation 5 for the first time going forward will be the PlayStation 5 Slim. They're going to pick the cheaper option, right? The PlayStation 5 Pro will be for enthusiasts. PlayStation 6, on the other hand, that is a console that will start the whole new generation. That is the console that is for the masses. It is not for the enthusiasts. It needs to be adopted by the mass market so Sony establishes a big market share all around the world. With that, they actually will sell that console at a loss. They will sell it at a loss to get it cheaper so it could get into your hands. And it will remain being sold at a loss for about a year or so, because then they'll try to do improvements. They'll shrink it down. They'll make it cheaper to manufacture. And over time, it will go from selling at a loss to breaking even to now making profit. That has been Sony's MO since day one with the PlayStation 1. They try to get the best technology in your hand at the cheapest price by eating up the cost, by subsidizing the cost. That way it is a mass market consumer device. Through subscriptions and game sales and controller sales, they make the money back, and then over time, as they constantly revise the console, they get it back to profitability. It's the same repetitive cycle they've done over and over and over. So I will not be concerned about the PlayStation 6. In fact, PlayStation 6 is a long far off topic. I don't think it's coming any sooner than 2028. We'll be lucky, 2028 is the fastest we'll probably see the PlayStation 6. But for now, I hope this video was helpful. More information will come down the line, but until then, just don't worry about the noise, about all that stuff. There's a lot of people that are just angry. They're just upset. It's just weird, right? Especially many from the PC gamers that already have a PC. They're upset. I don't understand why. They already have a PC. They've been playing a PC. Why they're upset over the PlayStation 5 Pro, right? But I will say this. If you are enjoying your PlayStation 5, but if you ever said to yourself while playing a game and you found it just annoying, right? Like that, like, wow, look at the quality mode, but I have to choose performance mode. Could you prefer performance? You might want to consider the PlayStation 5 Pro because it's finally going to alleviate that situation. You'll be able to get the best of both worlds. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new to the channel, please like the video. If everybody liked the video, but if you're new to the channel, subscribe, stick around. I hope, hey, we'll see what more information comes out, and I will produce more content as more information comes out. But me personally, I absolutely cannot wait for the PlayStation 5 Pro. I think it's going to be an amazing machine. I think Sony finally did right by creating a proper mid-gen refresh. This is your only friend, these YouTube streets, Puerto77. I'm out of here. You guys take care. Enjoy your weekend. Peace. Grand opening, grand closing.